Issei Sagawa, also known as the Kobe Cannibal, is a name that will always be remembered in criminal history. His terrible crime, the 1981 murder and cannibalization of René Hartevelt in Paris, shocked the entire world. This video will look closely at Sagawa's mind, trying to understand what led him to do such a horrible thing. From his early life as a small and vulnerable child to his controversial release from custody and strange fame in Japan, Sagawa's case makes us ask some difficult questions about human nature, justice, and how society creates stories about people who break the rules. Issei Sagawa was born prematurely, so small he could fit in his father's hand. This fragile beginning marked the start of a life filled with challenges. From the very first moments he was fighting for survival, and this struggle left an indelible mark on his psyche. This early experience with the possibility of death affected him deeply. As a child, he often found himself lost in thought, contemplating his existence and the fragility of life. These moments of introspection were a constant reminder of his vulnerability. Because he was small and seemed weak, his wealthy family was very protective of him. They surrounded him with love and care, ensuring that he had everything he needed to thrive physically. However, this overprotection may have inadvertently stifled his emotional growth. While he had everything he needed materially, he may not have had the emotional support to grow up feeling confident and independent. The lavish gifts and luxurious surroundings could not replace the need for emotional nurturing and the development of self-reliance. Growing up so sheltered, along with being physically different, might have made it hard for him to learn how to deal with challenges and take responsibility for his actions. His small stature and the constant protection from his family may have made him feel isolated and different from his peers. This could have led to a very distorted view of the world. The combination of physical vulnerability, overprotection, and emotional isolation may have created a skewed perception of reality, making it difficult for him to navigate the complexities of life and relationships. A very troubling fact is that Sagawa started having fantasies about cannibalism when he was only 6 years old. This shows a serious psychological problem from a very young age. These early disturbing interests weren't normal childhood curiosities. They suggest a deep disconnect from reality. As Sagawa grew older, these dark thoughts became stronger, mixing with his developing sexuality and turning into a dangerous obsession. Because no one noticed or addressed these early warning signs, these disturbing thoughts were able to grow, setting the stage for the terrible things he would later do. In 1981, while studying in Paris, Issei Sagawa committed the act that would define his life, the murder of René Hartevelt, a student from the Netherlands. He tricked her into coming to his apartment and then shot her in the back. What happened next was truly horrific. Over the next few days, Sagawa engaged in cannibalism and necrophilia, eating parts of Hartevelt's body and engaging in sexual acts with her corpse. This terrible act, which he carefully planned, showed how deeply disturbed Sagawa was, turning him into a monster in the eyes of the world. Section 5. A legal maze, insanity pleas, and cultural differences. The concept of an insanity plea is a complex and often controversial aspect of the legal system. It involves determining whether a defendant was mentally capable of understanding the nature of their crime or distinguishing right from wrong at the time it was committed. After being arrested by French authorities, Sagawa was determined to be legally insane and not able to stand trial. This decision was based on evaluations by psychiatrists who concluded that his mental state rendered him incapable of participating in his defense or understanding the proceedings against him. This decision, based on what psychiatrists said, meant he was sent to a mental institution instead of prison. The rationale behind this is that individuals who are deemed insane are considered to need medical treatment rather than punishment. Mental institutions are designed to provide the necessary care and rehabilitation for such individuals. But because of some legal maneuvering and cultural differences, Sagawa avoided real justice. The legal systems in different countries have varying approaches to handling cases involving mental illness, and these discrepancies can lead to unexpected outcomes. In Sagawa's case, the interplay between French and Japanese legal standards created a loophole that allowed him to evade a traditional trial and sentencing. After being sent back to Japan, psychologists there said he was sane, blaming his actions on a personality disorder and sexual perversion that couldn't be treated. This stark contrast in diagnoses between French and Japanese professionals highlights the subjective nature of psychiatric evaluations and the influence of cultural context on these assessments. This difference in diagnoses shows how complicated it is to assess mental health and how cultural perspectives can affect legal proceedings. The case of Sagawa underscores the challenges faced by the global legal community in establishing consistent standards for mental health evaluations and the importance of considering cultural factors in legal decisions. It raises questions about the fairness and effectiveness of the insanity plea and whether it can be uniformly applied across different legal systems. Section 6. The monster within, trying to understand his actions. Sagawa's cannibalistic desires weren't just a primal urge. They were symptoms of deep psychological problems. Power, control, and a twisted idea of intimacy are key to understanding why he did what he did. By consuming Renée Hartevelt, Sagawa wanted to have complete control over another person, possessing her both physically and symbolically. His actions can also be seen as sadistic and masochistic. The act of eating her was connected to a desire to be consumed himself, showing a complicated mix of wanting to be dominant and wanting to be submissive. Section 7. A society's strange interest media and the public's reaction. The media plays a crucial role in shaping public perception, and this was no different in the case of Issei Sagawa. His story captivated the world, not just because of the gruesome nature of his crime, but also due to the bizarre circumstances surrounding his release. Sagawa's release in 1986 because of legal loopholes and his family's money caused a lot of anger and disbelief. The public was outraged that someone who had committed such a heinous act could walk free. This anger was amplified by the media, which covered the story extensively, highlighting the perceived injustices in the legal system. What happened next made the line between criminal and celebrity even more blurry. The media's fascination with Sagawa turned him into a household name. He was no longer just a criminal, he became a media sensation, a figure of both infamy and curiosity. Instead of disappearing, Sagawa became famous because of what he did. Interviews, talk shows, and documentaries featured him prominently, each one delving into the macabre details of his crime and his life thereafter. The public's reaction was a mix of horror and fascination. He appeared in the media, wrote books, and even made public appearances where he signed autographs. His notoriety became a form of celebrity, and he capitalized on it by sharing his story in various formats, and even made pornographic materials. These ventures were highly controversial, yet they found an audience, further complicating the public's perception of him. This strange fascination with a self-confessed killer and cannibal shows society's complicated relationship with violence and violent people. True crime documentaries and books about Sagawa became popular, sparking debates about the ethics of consuming such content. It makes us ask uncomfortable questions about our interest in true crime and whether it's okay to profit from tragedy. The media's role in sensationalizing such figures forces us to reflect on our own consumption habits and the moral implications of turning real-life horror into entertainment. Section 8. Unanswered questions, questions about justice and responsibility. Issei Sagawa's case still makes people debate and think about ethical problems. His release, based on a legal technicality and cultural differences in how insanity is viewed, makes us question if justice systems are equipped to deal with such horrific crimes. The fact that Sagawa was able to make money from his crimes while avoiding real punishment makes people angry and question whether society has a responsibility to protect potential victims from people who have shown they are capable of violence. Section 9. Conclusion. A legacy of horror and the power of the mind. Issei Sagawa's story is a terrifying reminder of the darkness that can exist in the human mind. His case is hard to understand, forcing us to confront the complexities of mental illness, the problems with legal systems, and how culture shapes our views of crime and punishment. While Sagawa died in 2022, his legacy continues to disturb us, a stark example of how powerful the mind can be in imagining and carrying out unimaginable horrors.